Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are fine. You have already noticed UPSC 2022 GS paper 2 and GS paper 3. Here I will take polity section as well as economy section. Okay. So welcome at Yojana IS. As we have already noticed, some or most of the questions are very much relevant what we have discussed. Okay, so without delay we are going to proceed with this analysis. I hope each and everything fine. My voice and visibility, each and everything seems to be fine. Okay, so one all right. So question number 1. The most significant achievement of modern law. Question number 1. It is the most significant achievement of modern laws in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problem by the Supreme Court. So question is directly asking about constitutionalization of environmental problem. Okay. By the Supreme Court, discuss the statement with the help of some relevant case laws. Discuss with the help of some relevant case laws. So, the most significant achievement of modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental laws or environmental problem. So, how you should interpret this question? Means we need to search out all such provisions which are mentioned within the Constitution of India, which are dealing with environmental problems. We need to focus, we need to search out what are the fundamental rights due to interpretation of Supreme Court of India. They are recognized, they are included within our fundamental right, article number 21. Further, we need to look at directive principle of state policies. Which article is directly associated with environmental problem or the fundamental duties or any other provision. You can highlight any of the case, maybe ban over crackers. You may highlight the verdict of the court. Thank you. Shapna, good afternoon and all. Okay, so you can comment whatever you think fit. So just 2 to 3 line, we can write the introduction. Within introduction, we can mention that due to significant interpretation of various law by Supreme Court of India, due to various verdicts and more recognition, attention of Supreme Court of India, especially during last 2-3 decades. Either the provisions of environmental related problem included within Constitution of India during Indira Gandhi government under 42nd Amendment or by the 86th Amendment or by some of different other provisions that we involve some of the environmental problem within Constitution of India. Okay, so within Constitution of India, Towards environmental concern during last decade, constitutional status has been granted to several environmental problems. To have safe, healthy environment, especially it is need of the hour to prevent current as well as future generation from the repercussion, from the consequences of environmental problem. Okay, so constitutionalization of environmental problem or laws. Article 21, the right to have clean or healthy environment, it is not explicitly mentioned within our constitution. Constitution is right to life and liberty. That is Article 21. But what kind of provision it include? Whether is there environmental any provision which we can consider that it is directly associated with right to life or personal liberty. So this provision we realized due to interpretation of the Supreme Court, due to verdict of the Supreme Court. Okay, so here we can write that it is asking about the case laws. If you remember case laws, it is very good. You will get good marks. If you are unable to remember, you will get average marks. First priority of question, to identify what are the basic provisions associated with the environmental problem which are recognized by the Constitution. Okay. So, Damodar Rao versus Municipal Corporation case. Here, Supreme Court held that environmental pollution and spoliation of the environment regarded as violation of Article number 21. If you are remembering any case law, you can mention recent case law or old case law. Not necessary always related to Article 21, 48A or Article 51A subclause G. Further, Article 48, we notice that protection and improvement of environment and safeguard of forest and wildlife. Okay, if you perfectly do not remember the article, just article remember 48A regarding protection and conservation of environment. That's all. That may be accepted, there is no problem regarding that. Not necessary that you remember complete Article 51A subclause Z. If you mentioned, that is very good. It will create more attention of the examiner. You may get more marks. Okay. Otherwise, if you mention, this is one of the fundamental duties within Article 51A, capital A. If you do not remember article, subclause Z, so there is no problem, not a great worry about this. If you remember well and good, does not remember, there is no problem at all. Okay, so protection and improvement of environment, safeguard forest and wildlife within Article 48A, and here Supreme Court in Sajdanand Pandey versus State of West Bengal case stated that court is bound to bear in mind Article 48A and 51 subclause Z wherever a case related to environmental problem is brought to the court. Any problem related to the environment, pollution of the environment, degradation of environment, okay, any problem, any case will be highlighted within the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court will seek it in the light of Article 48A and 51A subclause Z. Okay. Further, another judgment, or if you judgment, you do not remember this name of Council of Enviro Legal Action versus Union of India case 1999. If you do not remember, just mention that polluters pay the principle. Polluters need to pay whatever damage to environment they are incurring. Any industry, chemical factory, any emitting house, chimney, etc., if they are polluting environment, then they need to pay tax. They need to pay extra money, or they need to, do certain compensatory activities by planting more and more trees, maybe by taking some steps. Okay. If 2-3 case laws you mentioned, that is perfect, nice. Does not mention that Supreme Court recently held that polluters need to pay. Okay, regarding environmental degradation. Then 2-3 line you can conclude, because question is about significant achievement of constitutionalization of environmental problem. Okay, so significant achievement. Thus, a great achievement of modern laws in India is constitutionalization of environmental problem by the Supreme Court to restrict the development at the cost of damaging environment, to protect our current and future generation from the repercussion of the environment, or to ensure sustainable development. We have achieved significant contribution by different interpretation verdict of the Supreme Court regarding penalization of environmental problem, regarding constitutionalization of environmental problem. Now we can ensure healthy and prosperous life of our future generation. Okay, in that way you can conclude. Clear? Question number 1. Is there anything which is not clear in question number 1? Absolute clear. You studied, no, all such provisions you studied, but you need to understand very well what is the demand of the question. You need to explore all such possibilities in your mind, then you need to write the answer by recalling all such provisions. Now second, right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to Indian citizens. We know that article 15, 16, 19, 29, 30, these are available only to citizens, rest are available to all. And within article 19, subclause 1, there are 6 freedoms. Out of them, it is highlighting 2 freedoms. Freedom of movement and freedom of resettlement. Okay, so it is talking about article 19 subclause 1, subclause D and E. Freedom to move throughout territory of India and freedom to reside anywhere inside the territory of India, except some reasonable restrictions. Reasonable restrictions are mentioned, and this question is asking about not absolute, not absolute. It is a special attention. You need to give a special attention, especially on reasonable restrictions. Okay. So we know that in introduction you can mention it is inspirable word. If you will provide absolute freedom, then there is actually no freedom. Absolute freedom means you can kill anybody. Absolute freedom means you are not restricted. Whatever you want to do, you can commit any crime. Absolute freedom means freedom at the cost of suffering of others. So, on one hand, we are providing freedom to one and we are suppressing others. We are suppressing others. Okay. So, freedom means you can move in any area, in anybody's home, that is private property. You are not restricted. During night time at midnight, you are knocking the gate. I am free to move anywhere. I am reside means free to reside anywhere. So absolute freedom means there is no freedom. There is no freedom. So reasonable restrictions are necessary. Reasonable restrictions are necessary. So that's why it imposes some reasonable restrictions. You can, within the introduction, you can mention as per our Constitution of India, Article 19(1) subclause D held that citizens of India are free to move throughout territory of India. Similarly, Article 19(1) subclause E held that citizens of India can reside throughout territory of India anywhere. But these freedoms are not absolute. There are certain reasonable restrictions on these. Okay, so you provided proper connectivity. Further, you can mention here reasonable restrictions. You can mention here reasonable restrictions. Okay, so reasonable restrictions, if you will mention here, then security of state. In case of breach of security of state, if there is any threat associated with security of state, then the freedom can be restricted. Freedom can be restricted. Yes. Further, public order. To maintain public order, we can restrict your freedom to move, freedom to settle. And morality, decency, on the ground of morality, on the ground of decency, we can restrict individual freedom. And we can highlight certain regions. Okay, we can highlight certain regions where restrictions are imposed. Where restrictions are imposed. Even within Panchasheel provision, to maintain friendly relation with the neighbor state, with neighbor countries, if there is any problem in having friendly relation with our neighbor countries, then we can restrict such freedom of citizen. Okay. So restrictions imposed in tribal areas, people can't move. And Andaman Nicobar, Sentinelese tribe, Onge, Jarawas, and so on. 4 tribes are main there. So you cannot move in their own territory. Government of India have restricted people and displayed certain boards over there that peoples are not allowed to enter in these areas. Further, if you will move to northeastern region, then you require IPL, inner line permit. Otherwise, they will not allow you to enter. And you cannot purchase property in tribal areas as well. You are restricted. In northeast region, you are restricted. Earlier in Jammu and Kashmir, you were restricted. Okay, so your freedom and your movement, your freedom of movement and resettlement, reside is restricted, not absolute. You cannot move to army base, cantonment zone. Even during lockdown, you notice that your freedom of movement was restricted. Freedom of reside was also restricted. You need to reside inside the confined areas. Okay. So all these are reasonable restrictions. And further towards conclusion, again from where we started, we can conclude on similar line. Your freedom or freedom of individuals can be extended, can be exercised till it is not hurting the freedom of anyone else. Thus, reasonable restrictions are making these rights more enforceable, more practical, and more realization of fruits of democracy.
In questions like this, can we make a diagram or something?
No problem, most welcome. If you are making, suppose that within this, you can even draw the map of India, okay, whatever it is. You can draw the map of India, and within India map you can highlight some Andaman Nicobar, here restrictions, here military camp restrictions, during pandemic no movement, here IPL, etc., etc. You can mention. Most welcome. Peoples are not allowed to purchase the land. Most welcome. There is no problem. Even it will have good impression over the examiner. Okay. Within Article 19, subclause D, reasonable restrictions, you can in different dimensions, you can connect it. Okay. But this article is about within the territory of India. Article 21 also allow you freedom to move abroad. Freedom to move abroad. Okay. I hope now the structure of answer is clear. So special attention is towards reasonable restrictions, and you need to keep in mind 2-3 articles. If you don't know in which provision, then mention Article 19, subclause 1. Okay. So at least it will provide examiner some insight that at least you have rough idea about freedom of movement, freedom of resettlement, reside within territory of India. Okay, all right. All right, guys. Good afternoon. Now we are further proceeding towards third question. It is third one. It is written 4, but it is actually third one. Okay. So, to what extent, in your opinion, has the decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at the grassroots? So, this question is directly related to your Panchayati Raj system. Panchayati Raj system or municipal corporation. How establishment of panchayats, municipal corporation leading to strengthening the governance at grassroots level. This is the exact demand of this question. Okay, so first you can define this decentralization of power. You can define this decentralization of power. Within this decentralization of power, you can mention heading, sharing of power, devolution of power from centers towards the state or from state towards the panchayats and municipal corporation. Devolution of executive, legislative and financial power from state towards the local region for resolving the problems of the people and providing self-rule to the people. What else? What do you ask? Diarchy is distribution of power. It is transfer of power. Diarchy is about division of subjects between transferred and reserved subject. So here diarchy is not exactly relevant to this. Okay, otherwise it will lead to some deviation from exact demand of the question. So you define decentralization of power. Then come to the body. Main is how, in your opinion, decentralization of power change the governance landscape at grassroots level. So you can mention a subheading here associated with decentralization is strengthening governance at grassroots level, yeah, at local level. Now you need to justify how it is leading. You know already with 73rd as well as 74 Constitution Amendment Act, we made the provision for panchayats and municipalities to provide constitutional status to panchayats and municipalities for their more empowerment and to make states binding to constitute panchayat within 1 year time period after implementation of this act, so that each and every state need to form the panchayats and municipal corporation to strengthen local government, to provide self-rule to the people and to resolve the problems of people at earliest possible or nearest possible place. Okay, because people in local areas, they are directly connected with the panchayats and municipalities. Okay, so how you realize improvement in governance at grassroots level? You can mention we have noticed empowerment of the people. Now there are lakhs of the constitutional posts. Each and every village have panchayats. Each and every region of urban area have municipal council. It is empowering people, making them capable for self-rule. Even there is great achievement of panchayats and municipalities in women empowerment due to reservation and several other factors. Then transparency, accountability with respect to the previous time period now has been strengthened. Now there is less leakage, there is less corruption, and fund is reaching towards the local region, towards the local leaders. Further, we need to strengthen the transparency, accountability and responsibility regarding optimum proper utilization of fund that is granted to the panchayats and municipal corporation. Okay, about the power which given to them, whether they are exercised in right manner or there is any case of misuse of the power. Okay, further you can notice that earlier generally plan were developed at the center level without exactly recognizing the problem of local level. Now people from local region highlighting the problems at panchayat municipal level, they are further moving towards district or state level. Then central state as well as local government coordination is happening to resolve the problems, to resolve the grievances of people at earliest possible time. Okay, effective local governance, reduction in corruption, better regulation, monitoring. Then you have, highlighted most of the positive things. Now you need to balance. You need to balance, otherwise it looks like development of panchayats and municipalities are very good. Really, we have achieved the aim of good governance at grassroots level. So what are the basic problem? The one of the most important problem is lack of fund, lack of financial power that is being given to the panchayats and municipal corporation. State government have almost full autonomy regarding regulation providing the fund at local level. Okay, so lack of fund is basic problem, and without adequate fund they cannot have adequate enforcement of rules and regulations at different level, more development of state government not having adequate autonomy, only power is being exercised by the panchayats or municipal corporation, whatever power given by the state legislature, by the state government. So we had provision, constitutional provision, but still how effective, powerful panchayat will be, it depends on state government. We need to further provide more autonomy. Further, we need to ensure free and fair election without any kind of corruption, bribe, without influence over the voters, as well as ensuring good candidates election. Okay. So in that way you can write, by after providing constitutional status to panchayat and municipal corporation, we have noticed significant development of governance at grassroots level. Further, we need to strengthen the financial and legislative or executive authority of panchayats and municipalities. Okay, for achieving the goal of good governance at grassroots level. Clear? Ashish.
Is the question really clear to what extent power in India changed the governance landscape?
To what extent, in your opinion, has decentralization of power in India changed the governance? So, in your opinion, you need to develop that, you need to link before constitutionalization, after constitutionalization, with respect to time, from independence time period till very recent 2022. You can build up your opinion. You can build up your opinion to what extent, in your opinion, decentralization of power in India changed the governance landscape at grassroots level. If you will connect all such dots, then it will be justified. Answer will be justified. Clear? Whether changement, implementation of panchayats and municipalities leading to strengthening governance at grassroots level or not, over a period of time, over 75 years. Okay. Now seems clear. Now question number 4. Question number 4 is directly very factual question in nature. Okay. Question 2 was also very factual in nature. Question first and question 3 were little bit more analytical in nature. This is very much factual question. So discuss the role of Vice President of India as the chairman of Rajya Sabha. The chairman of Rajya Sabha. So within introduction, what you need to do? You need to write the constitutional position of Vice President. You can mention Article 89 of the Constitution. Consists the provision of chairman of Rajya Sabha. Officially, there is no role of the Vice President of India. Vice President of India is elected due to one reason. In case of vacancy at President office, Vice President of India can work as the President, else Vice President work as ex officio Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Yes. So, within introduction you can mention this. You can highlight Article 89. If you remember, that's good. If does not remember, there is no problem, not a big problem. But definitely it will add more value to your answer. Then discuss about official position requirement of post of Vice President of India. We have mentioned, we have clarified that in India there is no such purpose as existed in case of USA or other countries. Here the office of Vice President, the post of Vice President held only for one reason, that is in case of vacancy in the office of President. Vice President will work as the President. Okay. Now role of Vice President of India. Role of Vice President of India as the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So Vice President of India almost do all the work as a Speaker of Lok Sabha. Vice Chairman or ex officio Chairman of Rajya Sabha has almost all the operational functioning power to discharge his duty as presiding officer of Rajya Sabha. Rules and regulation, he can maintain, he is final authority to maintain rule and regulations in Rajya Sabha. ठीक है. Further interpretation of different laws, if there is any problem arises with respect to any law, then Vice President of India need to provide some resolution to it. Whether he constitute a committee or whether he initiated a debate on such matter. Okay. So whatever is the authority or role of Vice President of India, we need to highlight it. Interpretation of laws and resolution of the problem. Then regarding disqualification of member of Rajya Sabha, it is ex officio Chairman of Rajya Sabha who is responsible, who is authority to decide whether person will be disqualified from the Rajya Sabha or not. Okay. Appoint parliamentary committees, standing committee as well as ad hoc committees. Out of 24 standing committee, we have 8 belongs to Rajya Sabha. We have 8 standing committee of Rajya Sabha. All the chairman members get appointed by Chairman of Rajya Sabha. He can also appoint any ad hoc committees to investigate any particular matter. Then conduct business of the house, set rules and regulation, set decorum of the house, penalize people for violation of rules and regulation. Exercise few provision. Exercise rules and regulation to maintain decorum of Rajya Sabha, and he has synonymous power with a Speaker of Lok Sabha except few provisions. Except few provisions like certification of money bill, like presiding as a presiding officer of joint session of both the House of Parliament. Okay. So except certain provision, he has power synonymous with a speaker. Then adjourn, not only adjourn, but all rule, regulation, initiation, completion, each and everything with respect to setting, with respect to required the provisions for Rajya Sabha to form legislation. Chairman of Rajya Sabha is responsible for that. Okay, so you can mention it that officially the role of Vice President of India is just for the sake of maintaining continuance at the office of President in case of vacancy. Else, Vice President work as ex officio Chairman of Rajya Sabha. He functions all rules and regulations that is required for conduction of business of Rajya Sabha. So in that way you can conclude. Alright, so question number 4 is clear to you? Till 1 to 4 all are clear? I think after discussion towards conclusion, otherwise there are some online guys as well. Okay. So first question I will discuss later on if you are demanding. Discuss the role of National Commission for Backward Classes in the wake of transformation of backward class commission from statutory body to constitutional body. So this question is about transformatory role of backward class commission after making it as a constitutional body rather than a statutory body. Earlier, it was established as a statutory body in 1993 by 102nd Amendment Act. We made this commission as constitutional authority. So, role of National Commission for Backward Class in the wake of transformation from statutory body to constitutional body. So its question, its attention is transformatory role of backward class commission. Now you can highlight about origin of this backward class commission. India's National Commission for Backward Class is a constitutional body under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It was established in 1993. So this much introduction is quite sufficient. Otherwise, in 1993, the Parliament of India made a provision of backward class commission to secure right of socio-economic backward section of society. This much is quite clear. Introduction, both introduction are suitable. Both introduction are good. Now towards body, you need to emphasize over 102nd Amendment Act, which provided constitutional status to National Commission of Backward Class. Then if we provided constitutional status, then which article is dealing with other backward class commission? You can mention Article 338B. Appointment of National Commission for Backward Classes by President of India, which comprised a chairman, a vice chairman and 3 other members. For protection of right of socially and educationally backward class people. Now, after making this constitutional body rather than statutory body, statutory body are those bodies which are created by law of parliament. In 1993, a law of backward class commission was passed by parliament. This body was made. Then 102nd Amendment Act provided this constitutional status. Why constitutional status is provided? Because constitutional status is getting more recognition, more attention, more powerful. Plus, there is a protection of constitution as well. So, after making it constitutional provision, we can say that now more protective and enforcing role of National Backward Class Commission. National Commission for Backward Class. We can expect more pragmatic recommendation, more enforceable. Okay. Now, suggestions are more acceptable rather than previous one. Plus, it has less encroachment from other organs of government. Okay, it is now more autonomous constitutional body. It can defend its status anywhere. All the organ of government will maintain distance from encroaching power of National Commission for Backward Classes and encroaching the power of National Commission for Backward Classes. Okay. So, now it can handle the problems associated with backward classes, especially socio and economic backward classes. Because other backward class commission was in news, that's why there is a question regarding recommendation of other backward class for the reservation and educational institution by this OBC commission to socio-economic backward class people. Recommendation, suggestions over the reservation that is extended to socio-economic backward section of society. Okay. Then we can highlight some of the problems. Still, it is more an advisory body, more an recommendatory body, lack of penalized power. It cannot work just like a judicial authority. It has very limited provisions of penalty. It just, in practical, it works just like a recommendatory body rather than enforcing body. Okay, still its recommendation suggestions are not binding in nature. We can strengthen by making them binding. We can strengthen the position of other backward class commission by providing it more enforceable power, penalized power, and making the recommendation of it binding in nature. Okay, so after transformation from statutory body to constitutional body, its recognition, enforcement, and its actions, recommendations all get improved from the previous status as a statutory body. So in that way, we can conclude this. Clear? Tajni, you are coming after 2-3 days now. Now this question again, this is associated with Representation of People Act 1951. Discuss the procedure, decide dispute arising out of election of member of parliament or state legislature under Representation of People Act. So disqualification either 10th schedule deal or Representation of People Act dealt. What are the ground on which election of any written candidate may be declared void? Written candidate who has already elected, get elected. Okay. What are the remedies available to the aggrieved party against the decision? Refers to the case laws. So at least one case law you can mention here. One or two case laws you can mention here. Case laws means verdict of the Supreme Court. So this is the demand of the question, so you need to mention. Representation of People Act, it was made especially for the registration, for the conduction of election of the candidate to the legislature, to the parliament. Okay. And regarding qualification, disqualification of members and resolution of their dispute. So you can define Representation of People Act in the introduction. That Representation of People Act 1951 consists provisions related to registration of candidates, their conduction of elections, free and fair elections to the parliament, to the state legislature, qualification criteria, okay, and disqualification. If they get disqualified, then it also mentioned the authority, the right authority. It also mentioned the right authority which resolved the dispute, the election dispute, disqualification dispute. Okay. So election conducted with the universal adult franchise, you can mention the procedure for conduction of election. You can mention over there. Conduction of the election. How we conduct the election? With the system of universal adult franchise, direct elections to the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, to the Lok Sabha and state legislature assembly, and indirect elections to the Council of State and Legislative Council. Council of State means Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha and Legislative Council means State Council, Legislative Council. Okay. Upper house in the state. Then you can mention some of the ground for disqualification, how people get disqualified, because especially this question demand is decide dispute arising out of election of members of parliament or state legislature under Representation of People Act 1951. What are the ground on which election of a written candidate, means elected candidate, can be declared void? So on what ground elections can be declared as void? Breach of model code of conduct. If he has breached any directions, model code of conduct is what? The directions, the guidelines issued by Election Commission of India just before conduction of election, to ensure free and fair election. That is model code of conduct. Okay. So ground for disqualification, breach of model code of conduct. If any person, the member of assembly, means state legislature or parliament, has been imprisoned in any of the crime, especially the criminal offence, for more than 2 years, then his elections can be declared nullified. His election can be declared as nullified. Clear? Okay, just like Lalu Yadav and several people. There is a ban for 6 years on such peoples who get imprisoned more than 2 years. Okay. Failed to provide details of expenditure. How much expenditure they incurred, they need to mention. How much expenditure during conduction of election. Then any kind of hate speech, that can be the ground for declaring a candidate non-suitable to participate in the election. Okay, because it may promote offense, it may promote dispute between two or more societies, two or more section of societies, unconstitutional or illegal practices, unconstitutional or illegal practices. Okay, proxy voting, etc. Proxy voting is what? What is proxy voting? So proxy voting is especially held by the spouse, wife or husband of a serving person, generally. So misuse of proxy voting, etc., or by illegal voting, in any case, election can be declared as void, null. Okay. Now, jurisdiction, especially this Representation of People Act has mentioned that jurisdictions for disqualification will be dealt by High Court. High Court. From Indira Gandhi time period till recent time, you have noticed MPs, MLAs, election generally decided by the High Court. In case of Vice President and Supreme Court, this is the, in case of Vice President and President, it is Supreme Court. Okay. So, any case law, recently we noticed debate over two topics. Whether person in jail should be allowed, whether person in jail should be allowed for the voting or not. Then why we are allowing participation of the candidate who are under preventive detention or who are under the jail for less than 2 years imprisonment. Okay, so this case was highlighted by Jan Chowkidar, Patna based NGO. He filed, this NGO filed petition in Supreme Court against the verdict of High Court. Based on that, because we have in the within Representation of People Act 1951, we have the provisions that only an electors can be representative. Only an elector. If person is not qualified for vote, he cannot be representative to the people. He need to be qualified for the vote. If person is within jail, not qualified for vote, how he can be a representative? But Patna High Court held that right to vote is not absolute, we can restrict right to vote. Right to vote is not absolute. If person is within the prison, then right to vote is not exercised. Right to vote is allowed if person is within the preventive detention. Preventive detention. Okay. If a person is in jail or lawful detention at the time of elections, he shall be eligible for voting. However, if person in preventive detention, he can vote. Okay. So, person in detention or jail, he cannot be allowed. But it is the case of preventive detention, then person is allowed. So, you can highlight this case. If you don't remember this name, it's okay, you can highlight this matter. Recently, Supreme Court of India, a petition in Supreme Court of India highlighted the concerns of participation of a candidate who is in jail. If he is not eligible for the voting, why he is eligible to participate to become a representative of the people. Clear? In that way, means you have connected some case to it. Then Representation People Act 1951 is providing remedy and resolving the grievances of elected candidates. It is assisting election commissions to conduct free and fair elections. It is ensuring, it is in the concurrence of conduction of free and fair elections. Clear? It can be anyone. It must be suitable to the theme of the question, to the demand of the question. You can highlight the case of British era time period, there is no problem. You can highlight the case of recent one, very recent one, there is no problem. If you do not remember the name of the case, then still there is no problem. But it will be better if you mention the name. It not always in favor of a student that he remember all the case. So many case goes on each and every day within Supreme Court. But some important cases related to election, related to parliament, related to some constitution of India, you need to have some attention, especially those cases which are going on in the news. Okay. Now discuss the essential conditions for exercise of legislative power by the governor. It is also very direct question. Very direct question. And we have also noticed such question in the past as well. Discuss the essential conditions for the exercise of legislative power of governor. Discuss the legality of repromulgation of ordinance by the governor without placing them before the legislation. Sometimes central government as per article 123, state government as per article, बस आपको क्रम चेंज करना, you need to change the order 213, 123 and 213 in case of governor. Okay, so sometimes central government very frequently as well as state government misuse the power of ordinance. Ordinance is a special power to be exercised only during special circumstances. When there is urgency of law that need to be brought, that need to be introduced, but house is not in the session. State legislature या parliament is not in the session, then state government under article, governor especially under article 213 and parliament under article 123 has power to issue the ordinance. So here we need to only highlight 213 means the power of ordinance to the governor. First, essential condition for exercising the legislative power of governor. So you can mention introduction with respect to legislative power of governor. As President of India at central level, governor has almost synonymous power at state level with respect to ordinary, money bill, constitutional amendment bill, at state level. Okay, you can mention it. Governor can call a state legislature for the session. Governor can prorogue. Prorogue means termination. Terminate the state legislature as per the requirement. As per the requirement. Okay, clear. So just give brief introduction. After that you can mention article 153, the office of governor. Office of governor. You can mention over there. Okay. Then you can discuss some legislative power of governor with respect to different bills. Within legislative power, governor can call the house. Governor prior recommendation is required in case of money bill. Okay. Governor need to sign each and every bill passed by the state legislature. then only it can become act. Governor has four power regarding over a bill passed by the state legislature. Governor can return the advice or bill for reconsideration. Governor can sign, accept the bill. Governor can reject a bill, especially when government has lose the majority. Okay. Or governor may reserve the bill for consideration of President of India. So these four power you can mention over there. Okay. So all such are legislative power. Further, you can highlight the ordinance power by highlighting the article that if house is not in the session, if there is a requirement to deal with any such urgency, governor can issue an ordinance under article 213 of the constitution to meet any such kind of emergency. But this power we have noticed frequently misused by the governors, by the state assemblies, by the state governments, and some of the provisions, some of the law first passed in form of ordinance, then it proceed through the state legislature. If it has not been passed or sufficient time had not been given, then in such case governor further re-promulgate the same ordinance, which is not good for healthy democracy. The ordinance power should be exercised only during emergency. Now you can mention some recommendation as mentioned by Sarkariya Commission during Rajiv Gandhi government and Panchi Commission during Manmohan Singh government. They made more than 250 recommendations to strengthen the position of governor. Okay, so you can conclude it that re-promulgation of ordinance is not good for healthy democracy. It is the case of misuse of power, ordinance power by the governor. At several times Supreme Court and different high courts also have highlighted that ordinance power should be used only when there is a great requirement, urgency of making the law. Clear? Okay, so in that way you can conclude it, and it seems to be very, very direct question. Clear? Now, while national political parties in India favor centralization, while state legislative party or regional parties are favor of state autonomy. Comment. Simple comment. Now it is more analytical question in nature. Here there is lack of factual data, so you need to do analysis. You need to comment. Why a state party? First, you can define the Westminster model, the parliamentary model, that Government of India or Constituent Assembly of India adopted parliamentary system of government for more responsibility rather than stability, for ensuring resolutions to people's problem, day-to-day problem. Okay, and that way you can mention. Then you can highlight you can give the heading national political parties, why national political parties are in favor of centralization. You can mention 3, 4, 5 points. They have wider national interest, wide share of power, wide vote coverage, need to be defend their agenda as national level, need to be present their agendas as national level, are not concerned directly with the state issues. Okay. So, plus generally they have national political party have more chances or generally comes to the power at the center. When they come at the center, then they want more and more control over the state government. It also becomes necessary to deal with any kind of emergency, to deal with any kind of abnormal conditions. We need centralization of power. That's why national political parties are more in favor of centralization. Then further, state political parties are in favor of regionalization, state autonomy. Okay, are not in favor of centralization. So, state political parties are not in favor of centralization because they have narrow political base, narrow representation, only limited to the territory of state. Plus, they want less dependence, complete autonomy over the central government. Sometimes there is a delay in the project, delay in the work, lack of transfer of fund due to dependency over the central government. And there is intrusion within the functioning of state government by the central government if political party at center and state belongs to different political parties. In case of different political base, different political parties at center and state, there is a lack of cooperative federalism. There is lack of cooperation. That's why state party need more and more autonomy. While center parties or national parties ruling at center, they need more and more control over the state government. Okay. Further, इसका conclusion, I hope 4, 4, 5, 5 points you can mention within both the heading. Answer will be conclude. Yes. Okay. So, within conclusion, you can mention that national parties are in favor of centralization to maintain sovereignty, unity, integrity of the country as well as to protect their own political agendas and interest. While a state party having limitation with respect to their representation, with respect to their interest area, vote share, are in favor of autonomy to keep themselves away from any kind of dependency over the central government. Okay, in that way you can conclude it. So it is 14:14. We need to conclude it anyhow by 3 p.m. Otherwise, next class will be started. Any queries so far of anyone?
last question is that इसमें हम लोग जो लिखेंगे आंसर में राइट क्या है तो इसमें हम लोग कुछ प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन के बारे में नहीं लिख सकते
Definitely there is no problem. There is no limitation.
जैसे like क्या आप गवर्नमेंट
You can mention. There is no problem. A state government like in Jammu and Kashmir and southern India, at central Delhi and northeastern region are more in favor of autonomy. Each and every time during their election assemblies, general assemblies, they highlight, they raise the issue of regional autonomy, state autonomy. You can mention, most welcome. There is no problem at all. You cannot confine the answer to only few words. Whatever you think fit, that must be suits to the demand, exact demand of the question. Clear? Okay. Now, critically examine the procedure through which President of India and France are elected. I think by reading this question, some of the student may get just kind of feeling that they don't know exactly the answer. They know about President of India, but they don't know about President of France. If you don't know about the President of France, then there is no problem at all. This is not exactly the motive of the question. The exact motive of question, whether you know the parliamentary system or presidential system. You know the nominal head of the state or the real head of the state. Whether you know what system existed within India and what system existed within presidential form of government in France, in USA and different other countries. Okay, so this is the final motive. Don't lose your heart if you don't know about president election of France, because you will not know. Suppose that at France it can replace with Sri Lanka, it can replace with China, it can replace with USA. Okay, maybe, not necessary, but maybe, because they have already asked over the USA, over India, etc., etc. Now UPSC need to little bit some innovative, something new, looking admirable, attractive. So critically examine. You need to critically examine. Means each and every provision you need to separately examine. Keep open separate problems. Then give your opinion on each and every information related to election of procedure through which President of India and France, election of President of India and election of President of France. Okay, so here you can highlight the procedure of President of India, the official constitutional position of India. Okay. So, the Constituent Assembly of India adopted parliamentary form of government. Here, President of India work as a nominal head, de jure head, while Prime Minister of India work as the real head, de facto head. While in case of France, which adopted presidential form of government, presidential is head of both state as well as government. This much is quite sufficient within the introduction. You have mentioned the official constitutional position of President of India and President of France. Clear? Okay. Now, Constitution of India adopted parliamentary form of government to ensure more stability, to ensure more accountability rather than stability. Since two head may not survive for one position, for one authority, thus India adopted as ceremonial position of President of India, while real position of Prime Minister of India. Okay. So then you can highlight in France, President of France is directly elected by the people. He enjoys both the authority. He work as head of the state as well as head of the government, and he has absolute authority. He has absolute authority. He remains stable for its complete tenure. Okay. Then you can highlight differences between India and France. Head, double head, we have already mentioned. In India, we have double head, where we have single head. Okay, double executive head, PM and president, there only president. Method of election in India, for president post, we have conduct indirect election with the method of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. While in France, we had direct election. ठीक है, people directly vote to President of India, and President is directly accountable to people, not to the legislature. Further, electoral college we have mentioned, power and duties of President of India, President of France. Okay, here there is a harmonious relation between the executive and the legislature, but there is a complete separation between the executive and the legislature. President is absolute powerful regarding appointing all the executive ministers or authoritative people within the France. Generally, legislature are not the executive. They have complete separate executives. Here in India, we have both, means legislator are the executives. Okay. Critical analysis, parliamentary form of system and presidential form of system. You can mention here. Parliamentary system provide more responsibility or more accountability towards the people, while presidential system provide more stability rather than accountability. Okay. Justifying the position of India and position with respect to France. So in India, because of British legacy, because of our diverse culture, because of suitability and more responsible government, India adopted parliamentary form of government in which we keep the position of president as ceremonial, while France adopted real position of president of France because of its less diversity, because of its more suitability towards presidential form of government. Okay. Practically, it is not possible at same point of time we can keep both stable as well as accountable government. It is practically not possible. Either you can choose stability or you can choose accountability. Okay, so in that way you can conclude it. Now discuss the role of Election Commission of India in the light of evolution of Model Code of Conduct. in the light of model code of conduct. So it is also not very critical question, more simple general question in nature. Yes. Now define model code of conduct. Model code of conduct is nothing but the guidelines, provisions issued by election commission generally before the election time period for making a smooth functioning of conduction free and fair elections in India. Okay. You can start with the good quote as well. I think this was Abraham Lincoln or who said that ballot is more powerful than bullet. Okay. और you can whatever suitable quote के साथ you can start. You can start by defining model code of conduct. You may start by defining power of Election Commission of India with Article 324. Then still valid, no problem. In 3-4 ways you can start it. Or if you have good data associated with model code of conduct, recent कुछ ऐसा हुआ है, then you can also start with that data. There is no problem. Okay. Then Article 324 you can mention. Some article you need to remember, you need to link it. Okay. For President, Vice President, Election Commission, UPSC, Finance Commission, Supreme Court, High Court, okay, Ordinance Power, Speaker, Rajya Sabha Chairman, Fundamental Rights all, DPSPs, Fundamental Duties, at least this much you need to remember. At least this much you need to remember, else you can set your priority as per your own will. So this Article 324 consists plenary provision vesting the whole responsibility for national and state election in Election Commission of India, and therefore the necessary provision, the necessary power to discharge that function also held in Election Commission of India. Means whatever is required, Supreme Court already realized that what are the powers of Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India's power can be anything to ensure free and fair election. Anything if Election Commission of India want to ensure free and fair election, then it will be power of Election Commission of India. Okay. Mention origin, model code of conduct. If you remember well and good, does not remember, then you can link just after the independence. This model code of conduct was first get evolved in the state assembly, then Election Commission of India acknowledged it and implemented at the Lok Sabha. इतना तो write कर ही सकते हो, and that way you can write. Okay, if remember exactly, then very good. Evaluator may inspire. In 1960, Kerala Legislative Assembly adopted Model Code of Conduct, issued some Model Code of Conduct. State Election Commission of Kerala issued Model Code of Conduct before the conduction of election for the State Assembly. After that, in 1962, Election Commission of India adopted Model Code of Conduct for Lok Sabha, first time for the Lok Sabha. Then from there onwards, due course of time, Model Code of Conduct has been strengthened at various point of time. Okay, it has involved lot of things during last few decades. Write points regarding effective use of Model Code of Conduct. Generally, before the conduction of election, Model Code of Conduct directions issued by Election Commission of India. On the day of election, to ensure free and fair election, Election Commission of India effectively implement Model Code of Conduct. through model code of conduct, it prevent any kind of advertisement just before 48 hours before the starting of election. On the day of election, it also ensure free and fair election, security, safety of ballot box, etc., etc. All come under within model code of conduct. Okay. Then towards conclusion further, on similar line, you can conclude ballot is more powerful than sword. Target that we could not achieve through fight, through force, through the use of ammunition, we can achieve with free and fair election, conduction of free and fair election. You can defeat a most powerful person by ensuring free and fair election. Clear? So it is more powerful than any other thing. So here we conclude all discussion of polity. Now further we are proceeding with economy. Clear? Economy we will proceed little bit fast because we have only half an hour. Okay.
पेपर वन का है पेपर टू का है
This is GS paper 2, that was polity, and this is GS paper 3, consist economy. So I am taking only my discussion so that you guys can have more clarity about what type of question they are asking, where you need to give the attention. They asked the Gati Sakti not in GS paper 2, GS paper 3, rather they asked Gati Sakti in GS paper 2. एक गवर्नेंस का क्वेश्चन है बेस्ड ऑन गति शक्ति स्कीम. ओके, सो if you remember basic provision of gati shakti, then you can attempt that. You need to give analytical approach. Why is public private partnership required in infrastructure project? Examine the role of PPP, public private partnership, in the redevelopment of railway station in India. The special attention is towards railway station in India, development of railway stations in India. PPP. Okay. Public private partnership for infrastructure project. You need to examine it. Public private partnership, you can define it. Public private partnership, you can define. Partnership, cooperation, arrangement between the government entity and the private individual entity to build infrastructure project or to develop means of production. Public private partnership contribution is inspirable, admirable. Then further you can put a heading requirement of public private partnership. Public private partnership, just after the independence we did not allow PPP. It is more came into recognition after 80s, 90s or 91, especially LPG model. Major reason is funding. Especially during financial crisis, especially during low GDP, low budget of the government, which does not ensure, which does not have capacity to spend over big infrastructure project, because government need to balance both. Government need to balance both. On one hand, it need to build the infrastructure. On other hand, it need to provide subsidy to assist the poor. So funding is very good option. Funding is ensured by PPP model, public-private partnership, because government don't have sufficient fund to spend over large infrastructure project. Funding problem can be resolved by align public private partnership over big project of the government. More productivity, more efficiency. We have noticed that productivity, efficiency of product services has improved during last few decades due to more participation of public private partnership. And roads, railway connectivity and development of public institution, etc. We have noticed better productivity, efficiency, better supply and management. Now production has also been increased. So now we have more effective supply of the product as well as their management. High quality of product due to more competition in the market, due to more indulgence, adoption of the technology, improvement in the skill of the people, we have noticed high quality of product. More competition is in favor of the consumer. More will be the competition, then it will be better for the consumer to get services, goods at most affordable rate, price. Speed of infrastructure project. Generally government project get delayed hugely than private project, PPP based project get clearances timely, may be completed within the time frame or around the time frame. Okay. So timely delivery of the product, we noticed after the implementation of PPP, better technology and innovation to increase their profit, to increase their productivity, efficiency. Private individuals brought better technology, adopt good skills or improve their management skills. Supportive during weak financial health of the country, especially they are more sustainable, they are more stable when country faces financial crisis, because government lose the power to spend over public project, then private investors may fulfill the requirement of government. So role of PPP in development of railway station. Second heading, you need to especially mention, you need to highlight role of PPP in development of stations, railway stations. Okay, so railway stations, if you know it, then very good. Rani Kamlavati railway station, this is world first class railway station set up in Bhopal, set up in Madhya Pradesh. It is having very high amenities, luxury facilities, and one of, say, we can say world class infrastructure project under PPP model. Okay, which is equipped with modern time ultra facilities, shopping complex, eateries, forex, parking, cafeteria, etc. They are all available, which might not be available on other railway stations or public railway stations. Okay, effective management, smooth operation, more cooperative towards passengers requirement, consumers requirement. Okay, they take care more, good safety security, more comfort, more hygienic conditions, calm cool environment. Okay, admirable amenities. All such you can highlight it. If you remember this station, it was in news. Okay, then well and good. Nahi, so you can link anyhow through stations. Development of railway stations, उनके साथ आप लिंक कर सकते हो. क्लियर? Now, ongoing cost of PPP project. Ongoing cost of PPP project is greater than actually the traditional procurement by the government, where expected return is higher only when private participants are interested. In those areas where expected return is not more than investment, they do not participate in the bidding, or government need to provide them assistance. Finally, all such expenditure, luxurious facilities ultimately make service goods more costly for common man, unaffordable for the common man. Poor people may not afford metro prices, they can very well afford railway prices. Okay, so all such luxury amenities may be good for rich class people who are seeking better services by paying extra money, but they may not favor the poor consumers. Ultimately, consumers are charged higher, means whatever goods, infrastructure, project, whatever things we are developing at PPP model. Finally, all these private investors, they earn their profit. Okay, so ultimately it is the consumer who suffered. Ultimately, the final cost is beared by whom? Consumers. You may get better product, better services, time delivery, etc., which strengthen economic activities, but ultimately some of the common consumers suffered. Okay, so private player remain skeptical towards those areas where profit is less. So in that way you can also conclude it. Clear? So you have highlighted role in redevelopment of railway station, and you have highlighted the advantage of PPP model. Now, inclusive growth. Again, one question from inclusive growth. But here, the dimension of question is a little bit different from previous one. Is inclusive growth possible under market economy? Now, it has linked inclusive growth with market economy. One thing is inclusive growth, another thing is market economy. I hope you understand very well the meaning of both. Inclusive growth and participatory economy and market economy. So inclusive growth means growth happening due to inclusion of all sections of society. Inclusive growth. We can say if high growth has been achieved, then the fruits of high growth has been reached to most poor, vulnerable section of society. Means each and every person is realizing, women, children, vulnerable section of society is realizing the fruits of economic growth, then it is inclusive growth. Market economy is completely based on demand and price. If particular good has been produced more, then its price will go down. If there is lack of supply, lack of production, then its price will go up. That is market economy, and both are different from each other. Inclusive growth and market economy. Generally, inclusive growth is not possible in market economy, because in market economy, rich people get more and more coverage over the resources, more and more occupation over the means of production, while poor get excluded from market based economy. It is the government, it is the socialist economy which can ensure inclusive growth. market economy is concept together, even it wide the gap between poor and rich very rapidly. Market economy good for short term growth, but bad for change in the standard of living of poor people. So, is inclusive growth possible under market economy? State the significance of financial inclusion in achieving the economic growth in India. This question, second one, already have been asked by UPSC. Earlier, India has experienced in last few decades jobless growth. Is Indian economy not experiencing inclusive growth just like that? Okay, so here inclusive growth possible under market economy. You can define inclusive growth and market economy together. That the purpose of inclusive growth to extend the fruits of economic growth to all sections of societies, including most vulnerable and deprived section. While the purpose objective of market based economy is let's allow free hand to economic activities for rapid development of economy without interference of the government. Okay. Inclusive growth might be possible in market based economy if government have good regulation, good monitoring, ensure transparent, effective rules and regulation. If market based economy allowing poor downtrodden section of society to produce, to be involved in the economic activities, then market based economy can also provide inclusive growth. How it can be achieved? If government can provide assistance to poor section of society, so they can also participate, they can have more confidence, more investment. Okay, and they will more participate eagerly within market based economy. You can give example Jan Dhan Yojana, you can give example Mudra Yojana, you can give example different such schemes in which government offering loan to new startups, to some weaker section of society, in which government is supporting to poor vulnerable section so that they can start some economic activities. Then growth can be inclusive. Otherwise, it is highly possible that market based economy exclude poor downtrodden section. State the significance of financial inclusion in achieving the economic growth. The financial inclusion, very big example of it, Jan Dhan Yojana, launched by Modi government around 2014. Okay, so this Jan Dhan Yojana lead to more than 1.5 lakh crore deposition by these poor section, poor people of society, which generally earlier get excluded from banking services. Okay, so financial inclusion is necessary for providing sustainable economic growth if we want to empower all sections of society, if we want to strengthen the standard of living of the people. Okay, so we need to rapidly conclude it. Now, what are the major challenges public distribution system in India? How can be made more effective, transparent? So I think this is, quite simple question. Public distribution system, you can define it. Okay. Public distribution of goods to assist poor section of society for their basic requirement, to assist them to fulfill their basic requirement. That is public distribution system. Okay. You yes. You can provide some data with respect to state government, with respect to central government. National Food Security Act. You can highlight that. You can mention. Okay. World largest food security program. Okay. Then what are the challenges? Santharam committee, you can highlight leakage, highlighted the leakage more than 48% in the public distribution of goods. More than 48% is leakage. How leakage can be curbed later on? Suppose that you need to also highlight a more effective and transparent. Means you need to provide resolution. How leakage can be prevented? One of the effective way is direct benefit transfer through their link account, etc. Directly transfer money into their account so that we can prevent leakage. Okay, that is one method. Effective monitoring, regulation, tracking of movement of public distribution goods by keeping GPS tracker and trucks or different other goods, or ensuring uh, effective monitoring or all of sudden investigation over such ration distribution, etc. We can highlight some of the achievement of governments, just like Raman Singh government. Chhattisgarh provide effective delivery of public distribution system. Our government also proposes doorstep delivery of public goods so that leakage can be prevented, so that availability to each and everyone can be provided, can be ensured. Okay, in that way you can attend this. Uh, so leakage is one challenge. What are other challenge? More populist, create the burden over the government. Warehouses problem, storage houses problem, lot of waste and procurement. Okay, it become burden over the government. So in different way you can highlight it. Elaborate the scope and significance of food processing industries in India. Food processing industries in India. So you can provide, you can highlight the food processing industries that contributing to growth more than 13%. You can provide some data more than 2.5 lakh crore contribution towards GDP by this food processing industry. And scope and significance. It is especially about scope and significance about the food industries in India. So scope and significance of food industries. There is a huge scope in India of food processing industries. We have good surplus labor. The surplus labor from agriculture can be shifted to food sector, food industries. Okay, then food processing industry can provide better earning to the people. Food processing industries can provide more inclusive growth in India. Further, contract farming that government brought a law. Contract farming that government brought a law can provide more assistance and development of food processing industry by allowing contract to farmers and the big multi-giant companies. Then farmers can also have better prices, can fetch better prices through mega food park if they are located in their periphery. If we can uplift the barrier of sale and purchase of agriculture commodities only within APMC mandis, then food processing industries can also strengthen. Okay. So you need to focus a little bit towards downside and upside of food processing industries and looking the raw material as well as to providing to finished good. Then the increase in life expectancy in the country has led to newer health challenges in the community. What are those challenges and what steps need to be taken? So increase in life expectancy in the country has led to newer health challenges in the community. And what are those challenges? What are steps that need to be taken? So increase in expectancy, life expectancy. What are new health challenges that arise due to increase in life expectancy of the country? The new challenges that arises due to increment in the life expectancy, we need more and more specialization within the medical facilities. We need to provide more and more supportive medical facilities to poor, weaker section of societies. Okay, and we need to provide more social security, especially the senior citizen or old age people due to increment in their life expectancy. Okay. Other challenges, we need to deal with some environmental problem that has been arised that are impacting. We need to reduce some chemicals that has been entered into food chain. Okay, so we need to strengthen all those. What are those challenges and what steps need to be taken? Then steps need to be taken. All such steps which ensure healthy expectancy ratio. We need to, yes, I am just concluding. We need to take all such steps. Economic growth is in the recent past has been increasing labor activity, increase in labor activity. We notice that labor activities has increased and due to which economic growth is increasing. Means earlier one labor was producing less, now the same labor producing more. Earlier one labor was producing 50 chairs, now one labor is producing 80 chairs, suppose that. Due to a strength in the technology, due to improvement in the skill, due to improvement in their lifestyle or working hours, etc., etc. Okay. Explain this statement suggests the growth pattern that will lead to creation of more job without compromising labor productivity. So with the increment in labor productivity, the first challenge arises that we have a threat towards job loss. Suppose that earlier there were two people who were engaged in manufacturing of chair. Clear? They were producing 40 each. Now one labor is producing 100 chair. What about other people? If their efficiency will increase, then consumption requirement of chair is near about same. The demand of chair is near about same. So other person might lose job. So we need to ensure labor productivity. Also we need to ensure job growth. So we need to diversify. We need to diversify. Just I am finishing within 5 minutes. Okay, no problem. We need to diversify our jobs. Do you think India will meet 50% of its energy need from renewable energy by 2030? Justify your answer. How will the shift of subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable help in achieving the above objective? Explain. Do you think? You need to think. If UPSC has asked, you be more, positive rather than negative. You need to highlight all the big project, all the big schemes regarding renewable energy, regarding target, wind energy, solar energy, okay, hydro energy. You need all such energies, target, etc. You need to highlight them. Okay, you need to justify. And how will shift the subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable help achieve above objective? So you need to also mention the shift of subsidies from fossil fuel. At present, you are giving the subsidy as fossil fuel. Okay. Now you need to shift subsidies from fossil fuel to renewable over solar panels, etc. Now, is this it will help to achieve the above objective? You need to support this argument as well. Okay, time is not permitting for discussion, but we will take later on all such questions within the class, no problem, along with the topic. What are the main bottleneck of upstream and downstream process of marketing? Upstreaming means processor looking for raw material, searching for raw material. Contract farming is upstream. They are doing contract with the farmers and taking the raw material. And downstream, after processing, they need to release in the market to the consumers. Okay, so this topic is directly mentioned within your syllabus. What are the main bottleneck in upstream and downstream process of marketing of agriculture product in India? Bottleneck may be the small marginal farmers, lack of awareness to the farmers, bottleneck, lack of quality of product, adverse monsoon condition, unpredictable, lack of security of, lack of insurance of agri product. Okay, downstream problem, high transportation cost, low skill processing, okay, low purchasing capacity of the people, लो प्रिजर्वेशन हाउस, ये अपस्ट्रीम में भी आ जाएगा, डाउन स्ट्रीम में भी, लो फैसिलिटीज ऑफ वेयर हाउसेस एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. You need to give around 5-10 point in both way. Now this is last question and I have written the answers as well. So what are integrated farming system, how it will help to small and marginal farmer Define integrated farming, farming with livestock, poultry, fish, etc. Will provide nutrition to the farmers, will support one output as input to others, maybe the waste of animal excretion will work just like the manure. Okay, if you are keeping bee with the agriculture, automatically bee will extract whatever product they required from the agriculture, etc., etc. Benefit of integrated farming: farm residue can be work as fodder, animal waste can be work as manure, then health of soil can improve, less dependency over fertilizer. Okay, so integrative farming can be achieved by creating more awareness, assisting of the farmers for required support. Clear? Okay, so I hope you got some clarity, ideas about how UPSC question is asking. Further, we will conclude all your doubts, each and everything within the classes. Bye bye. Take care.